Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, with our queer news for today. Now, I want to make you a promise. We will continue to bring you the latest in queer news, culture, and politics. So if you dig in our intersectional take on the daily, consider joining the QCrew. The QCrew is our monthly membership program we started to help us grow the podcast. With your help, we can bring you more stories celebrating our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and comrade communities. This month, we have a QCrew exclusive we are working on that I think will be one of our best interviews yet. More to come on that. And in the meantime, you've shown us your support by tuning into this episode. You can show your curiosity by clicking the link in the show notes to learn more about the QCrew. Family, did you know the Palm Springs Women's Jazz Festival is coming back, celebrating its 10th anniversary? It's all going down November 11th through the 13th at the Cathedral City Amphitheater. This anniversary celebration is featuring some of the very best women in jazz, including none other than Letticy herself. So, if you like jazz and enjoy being with lesbians of color from across the country, then you need to start making your plans to attend the Palm Springs Women's Jazz Festival. Visit palmspringswomensjazzfestival.org for all the details. And y'all know we got the link in the show notes, and I plan on being there too, so come on, let's go. Now, have you purchased your purple tie tickets yet? It's so hard to believe we've been doing this for 9 years, giving back to my favorite small nonprofits that are making big impacts. This year will be special too. VIP will be our very first Cube Original Podcast listening party. This is going to be so lit. You have the opportunity to hear what we've been creating in the podcast space as part of the Cube. I'm excited. For General Kenyatta Ken Chris is performing with her band, and she is going to shut it down. I got no doubts about it. All the proceeds are going to the Chicago Therapy Collective. And if you aren't in Chicago, that's okay too. We will be live streaming our general time too. So I thank you for your continued support, truly from the bottom of my heart. And you can click on the link in the show notes to get your tickets today. Okay, let's get into it. Now for the news. Candidate Leigh Finke wins the Minnesota State House primary, setting up a historic candidacy. A gay man wins a lawsuit against his Catholic employer who refused to give his husband health care benefits. And the state of Idaho is forced to pay over $320,000 for passing an anti-trans law they knew was unconstitutional. Let's go.
You are now tuned in to higher frequencies. We do this frequently. Turn your radio station to E3 for that decency. Listen to great music and the latest movement. Safe listening for anyone that's tuned in. Who you waking up to? Anna DeShawn, QCrew and friends. It's that real talk. Online radio with the spins. You caught up in traffic, frustrated. Just check in with E3 to shift your vibrations and get elevated. That's queer radio done right. Choose to be yourself. That's the only way to live life, and that's how it's done here. Just know y'all tuned in to the greatest. Ain't no competition. We ain't worried about the other stations. Check.
For our leading story today, let's talk about a win for representation, because we know how important representation is, especially in the political space. Trans candidate Leigh Finke has won the Minnesota State House primary. Now, if she's elected in November, she would be the first trans person ever elected to the state's legislature. Leigh is a journalist, advocate, and filmmaker who might soon add state representative to her list of accomplishments. Now, she's advancing to the general elections where she will face off against Republican nominee Trace Johnson. Now, Leigh was, of course, endorsed by the Victory Fund and was named one of the organization's spotlight candidates. And we see why. The president of the Victory Fund, right, CEO and Mayor Anise Parker, had this to say about Leigh. "We are confident Leigh's win is a clear sign to our community and LGBTQ kids in particular that hate will not triumph. Leaders like Leigh prove over and over again that our community is strong, united, and ready to lead our nation into a kinder and more accepting future. Yo, I'm here for that. And here's to Leigh and her trailblazing candidacy and her win in November, right? We're going to speak all of that into existence. Come on. Our next story for today is another win, and I'm here for all the wins, okay? And the good news. A federal judge has ruled that the nonprofit Catholic Relief Services violated federal laws against sex discrimination when it denied health insurance benefits to the male spouse of a gay employee, rejecting their frankly baseless argument that they have a religious right. They love using that, don't they? They have a religious right to discriminate in employment. The employee was identified as John Doe to actually protect his privacy, claimed that after being told that CRS's insurance plan provided health coverage for employees and their spouses regardless of sex, when he was hired in 2016, his husband's coverage was dropped in 2017 because same-sex spouses were not covered. Well, in her decision, U.S. District Judge Catherine C. Blake said that exemptions to federal laws against sex discrimination for religious-based organizations do not apply in this case because Doe's job as a data analyst was not part of the Baltimore-based organization's religious mission. Ooh. Bias against LGBTQ employees, Blake said, was at the heart of CRS's denial of benefits to Doe's husband. But she noted that while Title VII's exemption for religious organizations allows them to discriminate against members of other religions, it does not, and I repeat, it does not protect against bias based on sex, sexual orientation, and race. And now, a jury will decide what damages Doe is owed. I hope they go big or go home. Okay? For our last story today, we are highlighting another win because we do not get tired of good news around here. The state of Idaho has been forced to pay over $320,000 for passing an anti-trans law that it knew was unconstitutional. Okay, let's get into this. All right. Now, in 2018, Judge Candy Dale ruled that it was unconstitutional for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare to completely block transgender people from correcting the gender marker on their birth certificates. That case was brought by a transgender woman who was called many derogatory anti-trans words that I will not use on this podcast at a Social Security office when she showed them her birth certificate. Of course, Republicans fought against this, but ultimately, the ruling stands, and the ruling didn't surprise anyone. State Representative John Gannon said at the time that it would be, quote, a legal disaster that would open the state up to, quote, an expensive losing lawsuit paid for by taxpayers. Since a federal judge has already ruled against it, and alas, they didn't listen, and now Idaho and its taxpayers are paying the price. Their hate has them out here having to pay for it now. That's what happened. Y'all always know I end with the word. Anna's always got a word. The word for today is fight. Fight for the things you believe in. Fight for what's right. The fight will look different for everyone because we all have different gifts. Maybe your fight is at home, raising your children to grow up to be good, loving human beings. Maybe your fight is in the classroom where you're teaching young people about justice and freedom fighting movements. Maybe your fight is in the streets through protest and direct action. I can go on and on. You fight how you need to fight. Just don't stop fighting for what's right. Till tomorrow, family. Peace. This podcast is a production of E3 Radio, your #1 queer radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation.